Ahoy! Palworld has only been out for a few days, but they already released an early access roadmap today. They're starting this off by saying that sales have far exceeded the development team's expectations, which is no surprise given how big the game is currently, how much has exploded across multiple platforms, and they're currently experiencing many problems due to excessive access congestion, among other challenges. So this issue is their first priority, and then they are moving on to implementing new in-game features, which makes perfect sense. As such, the first point on their roadmap for early access is addressing critical issues. Currently, numerous bugs have been identified and they're prioritizing fixing those. Sometimes the world date may experience rollbacks, and the loading screen may persist when trying to load into worlds, and so on. Next on the list, as the improvements they are planning to implement as soon as possible, we have key configuration improvements, an improvement to base PAL AI and pathing. I think this is a pretty crucial one because obviously this is a very central mechanic of the game, so I can understand why they want to focus on that first. But after that we get the planned future updates where the real big stuff is. They want to implement PvP in two different ways. So the first one here must be referring to PvP against other players using your player as well. Then they want to introduce raid bosses as endgame content. And they also want to give us the PAL Arena, which is PvP for PALs. So that's the other version of PvP right here. It's going to be extremely interesting how each version will be implemented. If the PAL Arena basically is more of a passive PvP mode where you're kind of just watching, or if you actually are interacting a lot there as well compared to the other PvP. But either way, I am looking forward to it. They would like to implement Steam and Xbox crossplay, which also makes sense because parts of the PC player base are also playing on the Xbox client due to the Game Pass. They want to do various Xbox feature improvements in general. There are some things that are simply missing from that version, like for example, the PC version doesn't even have an exit button at the moment. They want to allow server transfers and migrations, which especially makes sense in context of the other new features for the PvP and the raid bosses. I think this could be particularly useful. They're also planning improvements to the building system, which, considering some of the snapping issues and so on at the moment, also makes a lot of sense. And of course, they also want to introduce new islands, pals, bosses, and technologies, probably just over time in general. And of course, Palworld is very much peaking at the moment. It has massive hype around it, which will likely not last forever, and that will somewhat solve some of these issues by themselves. And we will see how popular the game still is when some of these changes come out. But I am hopeful that they will be able to continuously provide new content to some degree. I haven't played Craftopia, one of Pocket Pair's previous games myself, but I have been told by someone who played it that it had quite consistent updates throughout its life cycle, which possibly might scale down a fair bit with Palworld now, but that does give me some hope for Palworld getting a similar content cycle. Once we have any news on this, I will of course let you know, so consider subscribing and clicking the bell to get notified. Thanks to my patrons for supporting this video, and thank you for watching. SLOTH out.